Hello. This online lecture will talk through in a little bit of detail the orthogonal drawings component of Assessment 2, Early Ideas, worth 20% and due in week 4. Orthogonal drawings, which is the existing drawing package, is component 3 of the assessment. So what are the orthogonal drawings in brackets existing? This is a drawing package that documents the existing building. The existing building means the building as it stands today without your design proposal. It's a really common thing to have to do existing drawings when you are beginning an architectural or interior architectural project, and they're often a requirement of council. So, where are the orthogonal drawings in your presentation for week 4? Your orthogonal drawings will be a pack of A3 sheets that can be bound or unbound, and they will be placed on the table as part of your presentation. What makes up this package of existing drawings? All right, so if we break through the components, the cover page will be where your site plan is. And generally you have your site plan as well as the project details. So if we have a look over here, that will run through the title of the task, so orthogonal drawings existing, the list of drawings as in site plan, ground floor plan, first floor plan, north elevation, east elevation, and generally you then put a page number that each drawing is on, the address of the site, and then your student name and ZID. So that's on the cover page, which is at the front of the pack of drawings. The next series of drawings, and these can be on one page or over several pages, are what we know as the plan series. So this will mean we've got the ground floor plan, the first floor plan, and the roof plan. The ground floor plan is fairly self-explanatory. The first floor plan, I know that there is no first floor in the existing building, is what we're saying. What I want you to do though is imagine that you're taking a cut through the building 1 meter above where the first floor would be. So kind of 1 meter above, halfway up the vertical height of the building. This is so that you capture the change in volume from ground floor to first floor. The roof plan essentially looks at the top of the building, so at the roofs of the building from bird's eye view. The next section of drawings, and again this can be on one page or on several pages, are the elevations. So for this you'll have the north elevation, so looking from Middle Street, and the east elevation, so looking from the rear lane. The final series of drawings that you'll have are the sections, and for this again it can be on one page or on several pages. You'll have 2 short sections, one through the double story section of the building, one through the single story section of the building. Both of those can face Anzac Parade, and then you'll have one long section cut through the middle of the building facing towards Middle Street. So we'll try to take the sections always facing towards the street. So again, each one of these drawings can be on one page or they can be split across pages. Think about clarity and how you compose each page as well as how you compose the set as a whole. One thing to consider is the layout of each drawing on the page if you have more than one drawing on a page. So make sure that you align your drawings. So if we have a look here, we can see that we've got several plans, and this could be a ground floor plan, a first floor plan, and a second floor plan. And we line those up so that we can read them in conjunction in relationship to one another. This helps in clarity. Down the bottom here we have a section and then an elevation. And so again, we line up the ground floor plane so that we can read heights in relation to one another. Again, all of this just aids in clarity. So when you're looking at each page, we could have one or several drawings on a page. What else goes on the page? There are several things you need to kind of check off as you're doing this. So the first we've talked about are the drawings. The second is the page title, and that's down here. So the page title, what I want you to put is the task name. So that will be orthogonal drawings existing. The third thing you need to consider are the drawing titles. So for each drawing, you need to title that drawing, and that will say, for example, floor plan, ground floor plan, short section, long section, etc., etc. You also need to put the scale. So ground floor plan 1 to 100, short section 1 to 100. The next thing you need to remember on your floor plans only is the north point. The north point should always face upwards on the page, and generally I put that over here. The final thing you need to consider are section and elevation markers, again on plans only. So these are these things along here, and they indicate where you've cut the sections, and you can also use them to indicate where you're taking your elevations. So for example, let me see if I can get this pen working here. If you're taking an elevation of Middle Street, you might draw an arrow like that that says, okay, this elevation is facing the north from Middle Street. We do need to remember that these are not technical drawings, and we'll talk about this in a second. They are design drawings, and that means that you're not going to be using all of the tools that you've learnt in tech on these. So there'll be no title block along the bottom of the page. You don't need to add dimensions, and you don't need to have formal annotations, you know, where you've got an arrow and then a note coming out describing the, say, material detail. So as an example here, the drawing on the left, so this one here, would be a technical drawing with a title block down the side here. You can see grid lines, structural detail, annotations here, dimensions. And then the drawing on the right here, we would probably call a design drawing. The difference between those, for me, I find easy to understand when I think about the audience. So a technical drawing, you might show information that would be read by a builder to construct. So he or she would need to know dimensions, annotations, so that he could piece by piece construct this building. Also for council, so that they'll need to have technical information so that the drawings can be certified and approved. Design drawings might be for someone who might have a non-design background, so the information needs to be clear to a layperson. That might be a client. It could also be a council. It could be for marketing purposes. So often you'll find that design drawings are kind of a distilled version of a design proposal. Think about it here. We kind of need to think, okay, how do we simplify the drawing without losing clarity? So it still needs to communicate key information about your design proposal, but not the same level of information that you would give to a builder or to a surveyor who's maybe sort of estimating for quantities and for cost. So what do you need to show in the actual drawings? I know this is a common question that comes up. Let's go through this. First of all, think about the major tectonic elements, and these are kind of the major physical elements that might start to compose a building. So if we look here, that generally means we need to always show walls, floors, and roofs, all with thicknesses. So none of these elements should just be a single line. They should have a thickness, because in reality those materials have a thickness and a depth. We need to show the ground plane, so that would be here. This is this grey area here. And this can be shown as a block like this, or it can be shown as a thick line. You want that to be a thick element. We also need to show window openings and door openings. And so you can see some of those here, 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 here. We want to remember that for this exercise, we don't need to be rendering in Photoshop or showing every brick, for example. We're really just looking at line drawings to show those major tectonic elements. You can shade if you'd like to. I would just say be considerate and intentional about the way that you shade. So if shading is going to help to clarify the wall plane versus the window openings, for example, then yes, that kind of works with logic and it makes sense and it will aid in clarity. Don't do it for the sake of kind of graphic smoke and mirrors, let's say. A really important one that many students forgot last year is to show the surrounding context. Okay, so what that means in our site is to show the adjacent buildings. So that will be the tobacconist to the west and as much of the garage as you can fit on the page to the east, as well as the trees, the sidewalk and the road. We're dealing with a site that has some fairly specific context that we are responding to. So it's really important to show that on your page. You can show that using lines, or you can show it like the image here using photo montage. It's important to highlight also your site so that it's the viewer kind of knows where they're focusing. You also need to remember line weights, and you will have learned about these in semester 1 in interior techniques. So this drawing is a good one because it really clearly shows that the thick black lines are where you are cutting through and the thinner lines are where you are not cutting through. You can also use line weights to show depth. So anything that's closer to you will have a thicker line weight and anything that's further away from you will have a thinner line weight. And the idea of all of this is really that it just helps us to read the drawing. It's kind of like the alphabet. It helps us to understand the information that we're being delivered. Remember that you want to be really consistent in the graphic language that you use from drawing to drawing. So make sure that your set of drawings reads as a whole, it reads as one. And this kind of relates to the group work component of this. So yes, you will be creating your drawings in groups, and that's so that you are kind of practicing collaboration and also to ease your workload. But you'll submit these drawings individually. So you'll each print out your own set and you'll be marked individually. Remember that these drawings are the basis for your design proposals to be plugged in over the rest of the semester. So they'll be really important for you as the weeks go by. So it's important to kind of spend time on them now so that later you can see here, you'll start to plug in your design ideas, but you'll already have the context in the background. Here again, you've got an existing section with the design plugged in.